So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I am super excited to be joined by a fantastically talented actress in the form of Mia Foran. Mia, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so good. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. And as I say, super excited to have you on because obviously we will be talking about Neighbours and your recent stint on there because it was fantastic. But let's start off. Where did the love of acting come from for you? Do you remember your earliest memories of knowing that that was where you wanted to take your career?
Yeah, I started really young. I think I was like 8 when I said to my mom, I was like, I really want to do acting classes. And I started doing theater and all that. And I think I'm someone who feels a lot, like I feel things very deeply. So I think as a kid, emotions for me were very like confusing and kind of hard to deal with. So acting was a path and like a way for me to express and understand those. So it became like a big part of me understanding myself. And then from then on, the love just kept on growing. And I found it's a way for me to not only understand myself, but people around me. And yeah, now it's a part of me. I say it's not just like a want, it's a need, it's a way I understand the world. So
And I mean, do you remember the first time that you performed in front of an audience or, that buzz that you got? What was that like?
yeah, I have a few different experiences. I remember the first time I did like a theater stage one, and I was really like, I think I was even younger than 8 when I was doing like a few different like theater stuff, and I remember being really nervous, which was really fun. I think it's something you come to realize, like those nerves, especially when you do stage stuff, like they're completely normal, and now you kind of use them to become like use the nervousness into excitement. But I remember the first time I did kind of a serious script, and I was working with an acting coach, and I kind of went into like deep parts of myself to do it, and I remember feeling so relieved afterwards. And you would think something like that would like take up a lot of your energy, but it's so weird. It gives you energy afterwards. Like you feel like you've gone so much off your chest. And I remember from like then on, I was like, I need to do this. Like this is like yeah. So
And I mean, I believe recently you had the chance to travel to Los Angeles and to do some sort of work over
yeah.
there. I mean, what was that like? Because I believe was that thanks to Thea McLeod, who's the casting director at
Yes,
Neighbours.
yeah, yeah. No, she's absolutely amazing. So I did a competition. It's called like Young Stars, it's Australian Young Stars, which pretty much helps like young up and coming actors and actresses kind of get recognition, which is absolutely amazing. And I was lucky enough to be able to win that and go to the US and that, and it was absolutely awesome. I mean, I got to do a course over there, and I got to kind of get the other side of acting where I learned a bit about behind the scenes and the camera work and how important it is to understand those aspects so that you as an actor can bring like your best foot forward and be the best for the directors to make their job the easiest. And then also I got to meet some like cool directors and casting directors over there. So it was really valuable and yeah, amazing experience. So
And it must have been a bit of a pinch me moment to go to Los Angeles, just to be there. That must have been fantastic.
yeah, no, it was really cool. I went with my family, and even my family were like, "I love it here." They're like, "We want to move here." So it was even just the place itself was absolutely amazing, and there was so much love for acting there. It felt very like it almost it didn't feel unusual in the sense like it felt like everyone there had a love for like acting and on screen stuff in like some shape or form. So it was really cool to meet like-minded people.
Now, obviously, Neighbours, that's been a big part of your life over the last sort of year
Yeah.
or so, I imagine. How did that come about? Because obviously, with Neighbours, it's such a fast-paced moving machine. So how did
Yeah.
become involved? How did the role of Saskia come your way?
Yeah, so I mean, first I got the audition. I remember it was interesting because her character is it's very complicated, which I'm sure we'll get into in a bit. So when I first got the script, I think one of the scripts actually didn't even like the scene didn't even happen in the show, but she was kind of being a bit like mean and straightforward in the script. So when I first got it, I was like, oh wow, this is like a very interesting character. So I didn't know how I was going to go at it. I gave it a shot, and I was like, I know Thea McLeod, and I know she's seen some of my work, so I was just fingers crossed. And then yeah, it was just one audition, and then straight away they were like, yeah, this is you're good for the role, and I was like, okay. I was like, okay.
And I mean, how much did they tell you about the role beforehand? I mean, obviously you kind of knew that she was a bit of a bad egg, let's say, in that sort of early stage. But how much were you told about the character and where she was going to go?
Yeah, so I mean, after I realized I got the role, they sent me a much more, and they kind of sent me all the scripts so I could get more of an understanding, kind of work deeper on her. But when I first got the audition, there wasn't much, and I think a lot of the time they do that on purpose because they want to see your understanding of the character, which I think is part of acting. It's like everyone is going to act it differently, which I think is so fun. So there was a bit of context, but honestly, when I first got her, I was a little bit like for a second I was like, okay, how am I going to play someone that's so mean? But I mean, it's interesting because like as I've been bullied myself, so to play someone who's, I wouldn't necessarily call her a bully, but she's having like bully-like behavior. It really was like stepping in, the analogy of stepping in someone else's shoes, but it was almost like I was still wearing my own socks, if that makes sense. Like the socks are kind of like the human core, and we all have like a similar human core where we all feel similar emotions and insecurities and fears. So when I was kind of doing the role and even doing the audition, it kind of made me feel in a weird way very connected to humanity, and acting in general makes me feel very connected to others because it all comes from the same place. It's just the way we project and express ourselves is very different. And the way Saskia does that a lot can be quite negative on both ends of the spectrum of the being too obsessed and too nice and then switching. She doesn't have much of a middle ground. But because of that, it's such a fun character to play. So
And I mean, joining the cast and obviously, having your mum played by Libby Tanner, that must have been quite epic. And obviously Ben Jackson, who plays your brother. What was that like getting to work with these amazing people?
oh yeah, absolutely lovely. Like I'm always saying, I am so incredibly lucky to have people who are so inviting. And it was just, I mean, especially Ben, he went like he's like I say like you're like my brother in real life now. He went out of his way to make me feel extremely comfortable. And as soon as I got on set, I felt like I was part of the family, which I've been on different sets and I've never had such a welcoming feeling. So it felt really good. And Libby, she was amazing. One of my favorite dynamics is Saskia and her mom. So getting to like play that with her, although there was only a few scenes, those few scenes kind of made it even more important because we got to explore those little looks and little aspects of, that relationship. Because a lot of where Saskia's, behavioral problems come from is like her abandonment issues, and she feels that a lot with her mum. So no, I mean it was yeah, they were absolutely amazing. Everyone on set was. I'm extremely thankful for that. So
And obviously, your on-screen father, played by Peter O'Brien. Have you ever actually met him? Because you never appeared on screen together, but have you ever met him in real life?
no, I haven't. And I would talk about this with Ben and Libby all the time. We'd talk about how fun it would be to do a scene all together. I would have loved as Saskia could have a moment with her dad because we don't really get to explore that storyline. And obviously I've had to in my head kind of make up the dynamic there to kind of build her character. But I would have absolutely loved to have a scene with him, but unfortunately it didn't happen. But yeah.
Now, obviously, the character of Saskia is she was such an interesting character, and I mean, for you, when you're taking on that role and you play her so well, I must say, when you're getting into the mindset of her and you're having to do those scenes where, for example, you're being mean to like, for example, the kind of the maybe stalkerish sort of behaviors that she had. Where
Yeah.
how do you kind of get into that mindset?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting, kind of what I was saying before, where it's like it comes from this place of like the people who are like the bad guys. I don't think they're the bad guys. You're always the hero in your own story. So from her point of view, it's kind of something she needs to do. And then obviously she comes along to realize that it's not a good way to express yourself. But in her mind, both sides of them, because both sides of her being obsessed and being really nice and kind of relying on like when she does to Wendy and Susan, she kind of relies her own emotions on them, where if they're happy, she's happy. And if they're not happy, she's not happy. But because of this, she kind of falls the other side where if they do anything to hurt her, I wouldn't even say hurt her. From her point of view, it feels like it. She doesn't want to get hurt. So she kind of lashes back out at them. So in her mindset, while playing her, there was so many reasons and justifications in her mind, although to others you'd feel like it makes no sense. But to her, it completely all of her actions made sense. And it felt like her only way to feel better about herself in that moment. So although when I first got the script, I was a bit stumped. I was like, where is this character coming from? As soon as I digged deeper, it all kind of made sense, and it all kind of like you kind of realize this girl is just she's really struggling, and everything she does has a reason behind it. And if you look deep enough, it kind of makes sense in its own messed up kind of way.
I mean,
So
one of your first sort of scenes, or quite memorable scenes, was when you
mhm.
were working with Xavier, and you had to do that scene where obviously you're sort of coming, or sort of Saskia was sort of coming on to Byron, and
Yeah,
obviously there's that age difference, and that is how, that must be quite a weird thing to film because you wouldn't normally get that handsy with someone you've only just met. So kind of I imagine there must have been a lot of conversations beforehand of kind of choreographing how that was going to go, I imagine.
definitely. I mean, Xavier was absolutely amazing. I remember it's so weird. I felt awkward, not in the sense that he made it awkward or any of the directors or anyone on set. They were absolutely lovely. Even in like my bikini scene, they were like, "Are you okay with the camera shot being like this?" So they made it very comfortable. But I felt awkward because I kept on saying to him, "I'm like, I'm so sorry if I make you uncomfortable," because Saskia is like coming onto him, and as myself, I kind of have to do that to the actor Xavier as well. And I kept on saying to him, "I'm like, I'm so sorry," but he was absolutely amazing. He was like, "No, no, go for it. Like, do what you think is right." So it was awkward, and I think it was my first time kind of doing that as well, kind of like overstepping, especially the physical parts of it. I haven't done a lot of that in acting, and kind of getting used to that and separating us as actors and our friendship from the actual character's relationship was a really new and cool experience to be able to learn how to do that. And Xavier was extremely helpful with that because I was a bit like, I don't know what to do here. So he was amazing.
Because that was the first time we properly kind of got to see that side of Saskia. Because before that, she'd come in, I think the audience thought, oh, she seems quite sweet and quite nice
Mhm.
and lovely. So that was quite a big moment because no one, I don't think people really expected that. So I mean, when you're performing that, and are you kind of thinking in the back of your head like, this needs to be, perfect because this is that moment the audience are going to suddenly realize are there pressures on that, or are you not really thinking about that in the moment when you're filming it?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of lot. I think that scene, especially the scene with the kind of bikini, and she kind of like takes the kind of jacket or whatever she's wearing off, and she's kind of like, "Oh yeah, I don't want him to find out, but like you should know what you're missing out on," kind of thing. Was very challenging, but in a good way because I really wanted to get across, and I think I discussed this with the director on set that day because I really wanted his opinion on it and how I went because I she's so complicated and there's so much going on in her head, and it's kind of like there's so much thought process. There's like both parts of her. The parts of her where she's really shy and she latches onto people, and then when she's acting out, they're both the same part of her. She's just expressing it differently. So I wanted to get that across that that was both parts of her at once, and there were so many different thought processes. So it was challenging in the sense that I was like, I need to get this across because it felt very like this. It felt a very important scene for the character. I wanted the audience to understand that there's a lot going on in her head because there is. So yeah, it definitely was, and I think it's been interesting watching it back and kind of hoping that people get that and kind of get what I've been putting across as her character. So
I
mm,
mean, the other great thing we saw, and it's kind of a disappointing thing that it didn't really get any further, but the relationship that was kind of starting to blossom away between Saskia and Dex. I mean, quite a cute couple they were. But
yeah.
do you think Saskia actually liked him, or was it kind of just using him in a way?
Yeah, so this is interesting actually. I remember talking to the directors about this because I was like, where do I want to go with this? And I think it's a mix of both. I think at the start there definitely was trying to make Byron jealous, but it's interesting with Byron. I don't think Saskia actually thinks she has a chance because he's so much older. It's more the way it makes her feel. It makes her feel more confident. It makes her she thinks that's what she's supposed to do to be liked by boys. So it's more about that than Byron himself. And when she meets Dex, she realizes she can be herself around him and she doesn't have to put on this act and try to be like this older person than she is. So I think at the start she definitely is using Dex in that way, but I think she can't deny how good she feels when she's around him. And it gets to a point where like he's like the main thing that she enjoys about the place. I mean, I think she even says when she's saying bye to him, at the very end when she gives him a kiss on the cheek, it's like, you were the one thing I was honest about, like her feelings for Dex. And I think she felt most like herself around him, and she's trying to find her place on Ramsay Street. And Dex definitely helped her do that through her struggles. So
I mean, obviously, had Saskia stuck around longer, would you have loved to have seen that relationship blossom and see where it could have gone?
100%. Yeah. I mean, the show is sadly coming to an end. Is just, I mean, I'm so thankful I was on it when I was, but there's so many things I would have loved to see Saskia and other characters do. And I absolutely loved working with Marley, who plays Dex, and I would have loved to see how that would have worked out, and where it would have gone. So yeah, I would have loved it.
Now, obviously, getting as well to work a bit with Candice, who plays Wendy, and Jackie
Yeah,
Woodburne. I mean, icon of Neighbours. I mean,
definitely.
when you're doing those sorts of scenes where you were kind of first latching onto them, you must have felt so
Mhm.
lucky getting to work with new people quite regularly. Because quite often, when you're in a small cast, or when you're in a cast like a show like Neighbours, you don't necessarily get to interact with many characters. So, were you quite grateful that you got scenes with the likes of Candice and Jackie?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean both of them were amazing. I mean it was so cool that her character kind of got to latch onto both of them. I think that was really integral in kind of understanding her problems. Like when she first latched onto Wendy, it was like, well, maybe it's kind of just, but then when she latched onto Susan, it's like, okay. And playing with both of them and playing with that scene was so much fun, especially, I mean, Candice, I mean, we get along so well offset that playing Saskia and Wendy with her was really, really fun. And it was fun to do the kind of scenes where Saskia would be like mischievous, and kind of get annoyed at each other because like as actors we're always laughing and smiling. So kind of to explore that side of those characters was really fun. And yeah, I mean, I'm extremely thankful to have worked with them and to be able to explore the character and her attachment issues with not just one actor, but with two of them was absolutely amazing.
I mean, obviously, there's always a worry whenever a character is nasty to someone like Susan because she's soap royalty, and it's never going to end well. Let's say because people
Mhm.
are going to be so loyal to that character. But I mean, I think the great thing with your character is, although she was doing things that were nasty, um,
Mhm.
I think people knew deep down that it wasn't. It wasn't it came from a place where she didn't understand herself, like you said before. So,
Mhm.
getting to kind of, I suppose, kind of end that story arc when obviously Libby came back, obviously your mum on the show. That must have been quite nice to finally kind of wrap that up. And although we would have loved to have seen you on the show longer, it must be quite nice to kind of feel that she got her happy ending-ish, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I was very thankful when I found out she was kind of having a bit of a redemption arc because I think she kind of needed it. She was kind of going on a self-destructive path where she was self-sabotaging and hurting people and avoiding her own feelings, and she kind of needed to be like slapped in the face of the realization of like people know, people are seeing this, and you're like destroying your own life by doing it. And she kind of had two paths to go down. She could either keep on going on that way and hurting everyone she cares about, or she could like face her own emotions. And I think that's a really scary thing to do, especially for her. So I really enjoyed the scenes where she's kind of saying sorry and owning up to it. I would have loved to see more of the action part of it. I think she's saying a lot of it. And in my mind, she's still out there and she's taken the actions and the physical steps to find that line in between being obsessed and hating someone, and find a way to kind of control her emotions more. But no, it was really good. I was really appreciative that she got to have that redemption arc.
Now,
Mm.
obviously, if the show hadn't, because obviously they've now finished filming, but if the show hadn't been ending, would you have loved to have maybe spent more time on the show and explored the character more, maybe seen her do a bit more bad stuff before she kind of came good again?
Yeah, I mean, doing the bad stuff was really fun. Especially this one scene where like I kind of like I break the egg in my hand. That was such like I mean Jackie came up with that idea. She's like, you should break the egg, and I'm like, oh my God, I so should. Like doing things like that on set was like really fun because it's so you wouldn't do it in real life, you know, because like I wouldn't. So doing something that's because she is so like extreme on both sides, where she is showing the extreme of both emotions. So doing that, I got to express so much. So doing the bad parts was really fun, and I would have loved to keep on going. I mean, I think it would have been fun for her to go a bit further. I think she was already going pretty far, but I think it would have been fun to kind of have a scene where maybe they caught her in the act of doing something. I know Dex did, but it would have been nice maybe for Ben or Libby to like in the physical act. I think would have been a really good scene. Um, but yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved my time on Neighbours. It genuinely felt like a family. I mean, I even on the long days, I'd be excited for the next day of work. So I would have loved to be on there for longer, but I'm super appreciative that I got the time that I did. So.
I mean, if you were to, say the show was to come back and you were invited back, what would you love to see for your character going forward? Would you want her to come back a reformed character, or would you still want there to be some of that kind of bad traits or some of that still in her personality?
Definitely. Well, I would like there to still be a bit of the bad traits. I think it takes a lot of time for a person to change, and I think I would have liked to explore that more. And I would like her to come back, changed in the sense that she's more aware of her emotions. But I think it would have been interesting for her to see more of the recognition while doing the bad acts, and that kind of mental fight in her head, even more. So no, I would love to like be a bit more mischievous with her, but in a different way this time, kind of in a way of kind of guilt, where sometimes she would do the bad things and she would enjoy them. I would love to see her in a way of kind of also that other part of her mind feeling guilty about it and that playing a role as well. So
And I imagine you'd probably love to have done a big stunt or something that maybe would have been a good turning point. Maybe she could have, caused a fire which, engulfed the lives of people. Or would you have loved to have done something along those lines?
yeah, I mean that would have been fun. I mean, she sets the like fire or like the bell off in the school. Would have been fun if she set a fire to set the fire alarm off like that. It would have been fun to kind of play around with that. So yeah, I mean, I think when I talk to people on set, doing like big stunts and stuff like that, are always super enjoyable. So I would have loved to. Yeah,
And I mean, we did mention him earlier, but Ben Jackson,
yeah.
would you say you have you got a brother there for life? Is he someone that you're going to keep in contact with? And what has it been like getting to work with people like him who obviously have different ways of working? Is
Mm.
that something you're going to keep hold of for life?
100%. Yeah. I mean, we text a lot and I kind of call him my bro and he calls me sis. So I'm very lucky that as soon as we met, we were kind of very similar people in the sense of we were both very dedicated to our work. So because of that, as soon as we met, we were like, let's get to know each other as much as possible so we can be like proper siblings, you know? So he kind of had that excitement that helped me have the excitement and us really get so deep into that relationship. So, and because of that, like I'm really close to him in real life. And yeah, 100%. I mean, he'll always be like a second brother to me. So yeah.
Now, away from Neighbours, what's next for you? Because obviously you finished on Neighbours a while back now, I imagine. So what have you been
Mhm.
up to since?
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of audition stuff, which is the common. I mean, yeah, I'm excited to see where I go. I mean, I'd love to do what I loved about Saskia is how complicated she was, and I would love to do more roles like that. Like the challenging part of that is what motivated me so much. So I kind of love doing roles that are kind of a little bit twisted, you know? It's kind of like I'd love to do roles like that and explore more parts of myself. And I mean, I love even behind the scenes stuff. I mean, I love acting, but when I watch like horrors, I love the cinematography and just the whole part of it. I mean, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to that. If I watch like a horror film, I'll be like, the way they did the camera then made it look like that. Like I'm very much into all that. So yeah, I'd love to be a part of acting in some shape or form because it's such a big part of me.
I mean, have you got a dream role going forward? Have you got something or a type of show or
Mm.
a show that you would love to be in?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I learned from this is apparently I have a little bit of a creepy smile sometimes. I would do a smile. There's one scene with Susan where I look back at her and I smile. And the director's like, that looks so creepy. I'm like, I'm just smiling. So I would love to like going into that. I'd love to do like a psychopath in that way. I think for me, acting has a lot to do with the eyes, and I really admire actors. And like when you play a psychopath, it's they're not very physical. A lot of it is with their eyes. So like Villanelle, if you've seen that, she I think Jodie Comer, I think that's her name. She plays it brilliantly. That's she's an actress I look up to, and those kind of roles I would absolutely love to do because it is so complicated and it's someone so different and so extreme that it really puts myself in a complete different place than I am, and those are some of my favorite roles. So.
I mean, another kind of sort of role I could see you do so well, and it's along the kind of Margot Robbie lines, is something like a Harley Quinn. I could imagine you being
Oh
really
yeah.
great in that role.
Yeah, no, that's a compliment. I would absolutely love that. I love Harley Quinn, so.
Now, obviously, the show, like we said, Neighbours is coming to an end. But I mean, what do you think going forward? Would you? I mean, I know we'd all love to see Neighbours come back, but what do you think it is that has led to Neighbours being on air for 40 years and being such an iconic show? Why do you think it's run so long?
Yeah, I think it comes down to it being very relatable. Like a lot of it is about family and community, and I felt that even being on set. And I think because everyone on set has such of that feeling, it really translates into the show. And when you watch it, it feels like you're watching, real people, and you feel like you're a part of it. And I think you kind of get attached to the family and the characters, and they've done the actors and the writers and everyone done that so well that you are attached to it. I mean, I'm attached to it. I'm like, I don't want to see it go. So,
And I mean, once you appear on a show like Neighbours, you become part of that family for life. So
mm,
regardless, and some people might find it a curse, some people might love it, but I think regardless of what you then go on to do, people will always remember Neighbours in they'll always remember that kind of role. And
mm,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's fantastic that you can go on and do other things, but because that show is always in people's hearts and it's there, 4 days a week of their life every week, that's probably why people have the strongest connection to that. Now,
mm.
obviously, super excited to see what you get up to next. But for you, I mean, for anyone listening in hospital at the moment, are there any sort of messages you'd like to give them? Just as we kind of wrap up the interview, what would you like to say to anyone who's currently stuck in hospital at the moment?
Yeah, I think believe in yourself. I think that's a big thing. I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned throughout this journey is I get anxious a lot about lots of things, and then when you do it, it's always not as bad as you think it's going to be. So I think believing in yourself and surrounding yourself around good people and good community. I've been extremely lucky in that sense, and I hope everyone watching is lucky in that sense too.
Now, I just have to say it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for giving up your time.
Of
You are
course.
you are welcome back anytime, and of course, keep safe.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much for having me.